I just want to say that I love eBay. It's possibly one of the best and worst websites on the entire internet. And over the last 11 years, I've spent and I've made so much money buying and selling just literally random crap that I tend to lose track of it all. In 2020, COVID kind of fucked everyone, including me. I lost my job and I went without one for a while, and I needed something to do while I was stuck inside and in between jobs for the better part of a year. I then learned about the hobby of custom-built keyboards. Who the fuck builds a keyboard? It's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. You just walk into a store and buy one. Why would you build one? And upon uttering that statement, I realized that custom-built keyboards are exactly the kind of thing that a weird motherfucker like me would be into. And here I am now in 2022 with a total of 15 keyboards in my collection. 2 of them are vintage IBMs, a Model M and a Model F respectively. And I even have my endgame keyboard already built because I just know what I want. I've come a long way in 2 years to know that there isn't one true good way to build one. Everyone has preference. I'm personally into linear and tactile switches rather than clicky ones, and you yourself might like the exact opposite of me. It's a very subjective world. But one thing that has kept my love of this hobby afloat is going onto eBay and buying other people's custom keyboards. And the used market for custom keyboards on eBay, much like everything else on there, is inflated beyond belief and ridiculously priced for the parts that go into them, but occasionally you might find a deal. Which brings me to the topic of this. I go on eBay and I buy random people's custom keyboard builds, and I want to shove them in front of your face and talk to you about them. This little zigzag-looking ass is the Zlant XL, a very small and compact ortholinear keyboard that just looks ridiculous. Look at this thing. And now because it's an ortholinear keyboard... Oh yeah, that's right, some of you nerds probably don't know what that is. Typically, keyboards have raised rows of keys, which make it ergonomic and easy to use and touch type on. An ortholinear keyboard does away with all of this and instead makes everything flat. This aims to help combat RSI and carpal tunnel syndrome and other related wrist injuries. If you want to learn more about ortholinear keyboards, please check the link in the description below. Alright. The Zlant retains the same ortholinear concept in a smaller footprint like the Plank does, but just slants it a little bit. This thing is really tiny though, seriously. I stuck a can of Diet Coke next to it when I was filming B-roll for scale, and it's just small. The idea behind slanting the rows of keys means that you can have the same ortholinear layout as the Plank, but it's not going to be as clunky to learn to type on. This slanted layout was first created by an internet person under the name ZipTies back in 2018. In 2022, ZipTies partnered with 1UP Keyboards, word of the Discord love you JB, to sell the Zlant and the Zlant XL on their storefront back in January. Last time I checked, the Zlant and the XL are both out of stock on the website, but if you head over to the 1UP Keyboards Discord server, you might get notified of a flash sale. Otherwise, eBay or Reddit might be the places to look if you want to get your hands on one. According to the eBay seller, this kit came from ZipTies directly, which is pretty cool. This one in particular originally came with basic bitch black keycaps with white legends, so I took those off and I threw on a set of YMDK white gray black keycaps. If you've been eyeballing the keyboard in the footage, you'll know that I decided to turn the difficulty up to hard mode because the keycaps I threw on this are blank, meaning they have no letters or numbers on them, so I'm required to touch type on it. Why would I do that? Because I just fucking hate myself. The switches in this little guy are Franken switches, meaning that the switches are a combination of different parts. According to the seller, they're Halo True housings, KBD fans, 65-gram gold-plated springs, and silent linear stems, the ones with the silicone sliders that make no noise when they bottom out, and lubed with Krytox 205G0. If you don't know what that means, that's perfectly fine, but if you do, you can more or less agree with the fact that these switches are just fucking weird. I'm gonna break it down for you. A housing are the two plastic pieces that encase a switch. A stem is what you push down on with the keycap, and the spring is what forces the stem back up after it brushes the leaf, which triggers a key press. If you'd like to learn more about switches, please look at the link in the description where I have a beginner's guide to key switches that I found while I was researching. The springs in these switches have a moderately heavy weight, meaning it needs 65 grams of push force for the switch to actuate and bottom out. For reference, Cherry MX Blue switches have 60 gram springs, meaning they need 60 grams of force to bottom out. The housings are from Halo True switches, which retain the leaf spring. The stems have a silicone buffer on them, which prevents the switch from having an audible bottom-out thock sound, which sounds like this. The stems and housing are also lubed with Krytox 205G0, which is dielectric grease at a specific consistency used to lubricate key switches, and it gives them a smoother and less scratchy feel. All of these factors put together means that the switch feels like you're typing on a condom filled with slime. Go out to your local convenience store right now and get a bag of gummy bears. Go home and put a keycap on one of them and try pressing down on it. That's about the best possible way I could get you to simulate what typing on this beast feels like. It's extremely awkward to type on it first because, naturally look at this fucking thing. But the switches somehow have less travel time than the quickest switch I currently have on hand, those being Cherry Speed Silvers. And the funniest part is these switches sound like a heinous idea. They sound like a chore to type on, and yet somehow I actually kind of like them. The more I type on them, I get used to the switches, and they aren't as bad as I thought they'd be, and they're pretty fucking fast to actuate. For the customary game, I'm running Doom 2 with the Halo Doom mod made by Revenge and their team, which you can pick up from their Discord server linked in the description below. The keyboard performs very well. I didn't experience any issues circle strafing large groups of enemies or bosses. The keys normally feel gummy and weird, but when you're gaming with it, it doesn't feel that bad at all. In fact, it actually feels pretty good. The only issue faced with gaming is jump. The spacebar is extremely small, only clocking in at about 1¼ to 1½ units, meaning that the area I have to hit with my thumb is extremely small. My thumb naturally falls on the key to the left of the spacebar, meaning that I must force myself to put my thumb on the right of where it normally rests, which isn't natural for me at all. I do a sound test for this thing to cap the video off at the end, but the problem with this little bastard is that it's quiet. There's no noise when the keys bottom out or when they come back up. It's even quieter than my endgame board, which was designed to be as quiet as I can possibly get it to be, so my partner doesn't throw a lamp at my head for having a loud fucking keyboard while they're trying to sleep. There's literally nothing to hear. But yet I did a sound test anyway. Yeah, practically nothing. It's crazy. I'm impressed. I snagged this for 75 bucks after shipping, and to be honest, it was worth it, even if I won't use it often, or really at all, since it's not something I'd want to use for a long period of time. It's still a joy to have in my collection. If the seller ever sees this, Superman279, you've made a wild keyboard that does some wild shit. It's earned 4.5 stars for me, and that qualifies it for the Ken stamp of approval.
Oh my god, that's so fucking wrong. Oh, typing on this is so hard, man.